Why is starting a simple task sometimes literally the hardest thing in the world? I mean, you know the feeling, right? You're sitting there staring at an email you just need to send a one-sentence reply to, or you're looking at a mildly messy desk, and instead of just, doing the thing, you feel this crushing invisible weight. I want to start right off the bat by validating that daily struggle. Feeling stuck like that, it is not a moral failing, and it certainly isn't some deep character flaw. It's actually a very common, highly documented biological and psychological reality. So welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the anatomy of getting stuck, moving from procrastination all the way to action. We're going to use some amazing source material today to uncover the hidden neurological mechanics of exactly why we freeze up, and more importantly, how we can finally break free and get moving. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the myth of laziness. Then, your overloaded brain. Third, running on empty. Fourth, the procrastination loop. And finally, how to finally start. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the myth of laziness. It's biology, not morality. Think about how invisible this struggle really is, especially for those with ADHD. For a neurotypical brain, starting a task is pretty much a straight line. You recognize a task needs doing, and you just do it. Simple enough. But an ADHD brain's task initiation is a completely different story. Executive functioning is impaired, so it's not a straight line at all. It's honestly more like trying to push a massive boulder up a really steep hill. Because the ADHD brain often has a deficit in dopamine, that essential reward neurotransmitter, transitioning from just thinking about a task to actually doing it is incredibly exhausting. You aren't lazy, you're just trying to move a much heavier boulder with way less biological leverage. Moving on to section 2, your overloaded brain, the invisible weight of choices. Let's talk about cognitive load. Think of it as the mental effort currently being burned in your working memory. Your brain is essentially a computer with a finite amount of RAM. Every single minor choice you make throughout the day, what to wear, what to eat, which email to open first, draws heavily on those finite mental resources. And when you max out your RAM, well, your whole system slows down, eventually leading to a totally paralyzing state of decision fatigue.
And this is where your environment comes into play. A cluttered physical space directly mirrors and actually creates a cluttered mind. Our sources highlight that physical chaos forces our brains to expend precious energy just navigating the mess. In psychology, this is called extraneous cognitive load. Your brain is literally wasting fuel trying to process all the visual noise of the clutter, instead of using that fuel to actually initiate your priority tasks.
And then, we add our phones to the mix. Cognitive neuroscience is super clear on this. Our brains are simply not optimized for multitasking. When you're working and you just briefly check social media, you fragment your attention. This triggers what researchers call a switching cost. Regaining your focus after even a really brief digital interruption demands massive extra mental effort. You are bleeding cognitive energy every single time you switch tabs. All right, section 3, running on empty. Willpower, sleep, and stress. So, an absolutely crucial point here is that willpower is not a personality trait, it's a resource, and it can be depleted. Consider Dr. Roy Baumeister's famous ego depletion study. Picture this. Participants were brought into a room that smelled incredibly good, like freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Some people were allowed to eat the cookies, while others were told to resist them and eat radishes instead. Then, both groups were given a practically impossible puzzle to solve. The shocking result? The people who had to use their willpower to refuse the cookie gave up on the puzzle much faster. Willpower acts just like a muscle. If you flex it way too much early in the day, it fatigues, and you have absolutely nothing left in the tank for task initiation later on. And you know what drains those resources faster than anything else? A lack of sleep. Clinically speaking, sleep acts exactly like gas for a car. Without it, the brain goes haywire. The amygdala, which is your emotional threat center, becomes 60% more reactive. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the logical voice of reason that actually helps you start difficult tasks, literally loses communication with the amygdala. You are clinically hijacked. You become highly emotional, your impulse control totally vanishes, and the likelihood of you avoiding your tasks skyrockets. Which brings us to section 4, the procrastination loop, the hidden reward of perfectionism. Okay, get ready for a truly surprising fact. High standards do not actually cause procrastination. It's true. Perfectionistic strivings, which is just the desire to do a great job, is actually energizing and it decreases procrastination. The true culprit is perfectionistic concerns. This is that paralyzing fear of failure, the total dread of making a mistake. So telling someone who's stuck to just lower their standards,
is terrible advice, because their standards aren't the problem. It's the paralyzing fear of failure that freezes us in our tracks.
This actually builds into a literal habit loop, which was mapped out beautifully by Dr. Judd Brewer. Step 1 is the trigger. You face a task with high-performance stakes. Step 2 is the behavior. You delay, or, maybe you endlessly over-research instead of starting. But step 3 is the real revelation here, the reward. The shocking truth is that the reward for avoiding a task is the temporary illusion that your perfect self-image is preserved. Think about it. As long as you haven't started, you haven't failed. Your brain literally rewards you for not starting because it feels safe. Crazy, right?
Finally, Section 5. How to finally start. Let's look at some evidence-based behavioral hacks.
The very first hack starts right inside your own head, with your inner voice. Compare these two internal phrases. When you say to yourself, "I should do this task," you're immediately implying reluctance and external pressure. The word should is incredibly heavy. It breeds guilt and shame. But simply shifting your language to "I will do this task" frames the action as a personal choice. This one simple linguistic shift immediately reduces internal resistance and helps clear away the shame that's blocking you from initiating.
Next up, we can use Dr. Judd's 3 gears to actually rewire the brain's reward values. Gear 1, map your loop. Just notice when you're avoiding something. Gear 2, get curious about that feeling of avoidance. Realize that the so-called relief of procrastinating actually feels terrible an hour later. And Gear 3 is the magic step. Offer curiosity as a bigger, better offer. You want to substitute paralyzing fear with active curiosity. For example, tell yourself you're going to write a terrible, just awful first draft on purpose just to see what happens. This completely neutralizes the fear of failure.
Let's rapidly stack a few more science-based habit hacks from our sources to trick your brain into getting that ball rolling. First, if-then planning. Pre-decide your actions so you don't burn cognitive load in the moment. Second, habit stacking. Anchor a new, hard task to an existing, super easy routine. Third, make behaviors tiny. Shrink the task until it requires zero activation energy. Literally just open the document and type the title. That's it. And finally, the Pomodoro technique. Commit to just 25 minutes of work. Anyone can endure 25 minutes for sure.
By understanding your brain's cognitive limits, the real, biological nature of willpower, and those hidden reward loops of perfectionism, you are now totally equipped to stop judging yourself and start taking action. Which leaves me with one final, provocative question for you. What is one tiny, absolutely imperfect step you can take right now? Don't make it perfect, just make it happen.